Hello, History and Heritage Explorers. In this next series of videos, we're going to be exploring some of the historic sites of the American Civil War. So please sit back and enjoy. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to History and Heritage Explorers. Today we are in Baldwyn, Mississippi at the site of a major Civil War battle called Brice's Crossroads. So please sit back and enjoy while we learn about the history of this battle.
Hey again, History and Heritage Explorers. Elliott Witt here again on the Battle of Brice's Crossroads. We are nearing the end of our battle. This area of Tishomingo Bridge, and this is a complete 100% identical replica of the bridge, minus the metal siding. We're required to put these rails up for safety reasons. But June 10th, 1864, there was a post here, a post in the middle, another post in the middle, and a post in the end. It had just one wooden rod up top. Now imagine, I'm a pretty decent sized guy. All right, behind you is barrel and barrel and barrel of Confederate muskets and Confederate artillery right on that ridge. Put yourself right here. Think back to June 10th, 1864. Think of yourself as a Union soldier running away, trying to save your life. Imagine this entire bridge being filled with men, shoulder to shoulder, horses, wagons turned over in the creek. Panic. And the whole time, you know they were looking back trying to see, am I out of the line of fire? Am I out of the line of fire? And the creek from right to left, as far as you can see, had bodies, living and dead, wagons. Unfortunately, they were killed by shrapnel and loose ammunition of horses, supplies turned over. This is a dry creek now, but in 1864, June 10th, it rose up to a lot of those trees on the bank. And it was a strict current flowing. So when you jump in thinking it's just a regular creek, you're going to get away, you're being swept off your feet and in an undertow, not only because it's a strong current, but you're weighted down with hundreds of pounds. And unfortunately, a lot of men died by drowning because of the weight them down. And they tried desperately through diaries and primary sources of surviving members of the Union Confederate here that they could see their buddies being undertaken and trying to find them, and they never come back up. And throughout the past 160 years, we've actually found skeletons of Union soldiers, a few Confederates, quite a bit, that were up and down the creek bank through archaeological evidence. And the route took right here. This tree line in front of us was not there. It was a part of the crossing that came from the artillery ridge and down to here. The only accurate part of the crossroads is the spot where we started at the Brice house and the money. Now, imagine 8,000 troops running for their lives. You've got Confederate cavalry, foot cavalry, chasing you with sabers and bayonets. It was tremendous, horrendous hand-to-hand fighting where we're standing. Now, I wish y'all could be here to feel the goosebumps, because you've got to imagine, you're a Union soldier, you turn around and you face hundreds, if not thousands, of Confederate troops, and you ready yourself with your musket and your bayonet and your pistol and your sword, and you're ready to defend your life at all costs. And while the other people not engaged are turning around shooting volleys, and unfortunately during the volleys they hit their own men, because the Confederate and Union were so on top of each other fighting hand to hand at this point. Union would turn around, throw a volley, and hit their own men and kill them. The only reason for that volley is to delay the Confederate attackers so they can get further and further away. And as we come to the end of Brice's crossroad and on the Tishomingo Bridge, I'm going to take you where the route ended. And I got a special surprise for you at a place called White House Ridge that shows you that not only the battlefield was here, but it shows you the extent geography of the Battle of Brice's Crossroads. A lot of people think Crossroads just happened at the Crossroads. It happened in the entire town of Baldwyn. There were soldiers going back to Baldwyn for care, Guntown for care. There were wagons of Union wounded, or the wagons who got away, going back to Ripley. It overtook the entire area, and the only reason why we call it the Battle of Brice Crossroads, because this is where Sturgis and Forrest themselves met. It started amongst the crossroads, but we call it the Crossroads because both commanders met here. Now, on this right here, this is the bigger map with the map I showed you earlier of the roads in adjacent counties between Stubbs Plantation and Brice's Crossroad. The crossroads are down here, and this entire length of this map, left to right, up north and south, is where the battle started. And this right here is a good account to add to your imagination. As Confederate cannon rained fire on exhausted Union troops waiting to cross Tishomingo Bridge, a somewhat orderly retreat turned into a panic rout. Soldiers swarmed across the creek, bypassing the clogged and bottleneck bridges, and ran into the woods. Officers lost control of their units. Just 1 month after the Battle of Brice's Crossroad, Union and Confederate troops would face off again at the Battle of Tupelo. Union General A.J. Smith and his troops defeated the Confederates on July 14th, but seeing that his supplies were running low, because most of his supplies were captured by the Confederates here, Smith opted to return to Memphis. While it was in retreat, it was a tactical sense of the word. It in no way resembled the panic flight of General Sturgis here. General Forrest, on examining the tables turned by his provost marshal, basically his chief police, chief quartermaster, and chief of ordnance, learned that his command had captured following at Brice's Crossroads. As I stated earlier, the Confederate Army needed to capture these supplies to not only ensure the continuation of the fight, but to feed their army, to supply their army, because they wouldn't get a lot of supplies from Richmond or their state government. Richmond, Virginia was the capital of the Confederacy, but here in Jackson, it was under Union control. Nashville was under Union control, so Confederates here were cut off from the Confederate government. They had to survive by raiding and pillaging if they wanted to continue the fight. This is what General Forrest captured. Personal. He personally caught Colonel G.W. McKing of the 10th Illinois. Capturing a colonel or a rank of colonel and higher is a positive note militarily, because that guy has enough information, enough clearance. He knows every movement the Army's going to make. He's been in numerous battle strategy briefings, movement briefings. He could tell General Forrest where the Union Army was going to move next. That's how they met at Tupelo. He could tell how many men were in Memphis, He could even tell him what General Sherman was planning to do in Georgia. Whether he told him, we don't know. 1 assistant surgeon, 10 captains, 40 lieutenants, 87 non-commissioned officers, 3 musicians, and 1,468 privates, or a total of 1,618 men. That's the casualty number for the Union Army here, versus 96 for the Confederate. Quartermaster property was 161 mules, 23 horses, 168 6-horse wagons, 7 4-horse wagons, 1 2-horse wagon, 16 ambulances, and hundreds of sets of harnesses. Now, this is Confederate cavalry. Most mules and horses around the area and farms are poorly. They're sick. They're not getting enough grain because soldiers and armies are commandeering it. To get this many horses and mules had to be like Christmas for any cavalry. The ordnance stores were 16 cannons, 1 3-inch ordnance rifle, 5 James rifles, 5 6-pound guns, 2 12-pound guns, 3 12-pound Napoleon artilleries, 28 limbers, 15 Cassians, hundreds of rounds of artillery ammunition, shot, canister, spherical. Shot is shotgun. It's a artillery piece with a hole about this big, and they stuffed it with nails, spikes, anything they could find. And when it exploded in its impact, it would send shrapnel around the exploding area, and unfortunately, the poor soldiers who were around caught the shrapnel. But what was in the actual shot canisters was up to the Creator. 15,000 stands of small arms. That's 15,000 pistols. You can have 15,000 pistols can form an entire brigade. So if soldiers had obsolete pistols, they got them a new one. And it was Union, so it was made better. 300,000 rounds of small ammunition fire. Several hundreds of cap pouches and cartridge boxes, because back in the Civil War and War of 1812, our early 19th century wars, we had black powder. You had to load a weapon. I took a good trained soldier, militiaman, 1 minute to do it. You had to bite the tip off of a powder casket, pour it down the barrel. Then you took a wad or a waxy piece of cloth, stuck it on top of the barrel. Then you reached in your cartridge box, took the ammunition, stuck it on top of the wax or the wad, took your ramrod out underneath the barrel of the weapon, and rammed all of it down the barrel. And you had to pack it pretty good. Then you had to take the ramrod out, stick it back. Some soldiers threw it on the ground, and unfortunately, more times than not, they left their ramrod where they were and they couldn't fire anymore. Then you pull the weapon in the ready, pull back the hammer, reached into your pillbox, took out a small brass cap, stick it on top of the nipple of the action and the hammer, and you aimed, and when you fire it, that hammer would come down and tap that brass cap. It would fire the weapon. Nothing like we have today. So not only imagine this chaos and what kind of carnage happened here, imagine the weaponry these guys had to fight with. It was up to date and, amazing stuff, state of the art to them guys. But still, think about it. You're fighting guys and it takes you over a minute to fire. There's a lot that can happen within a minute. All right, and then you had a number of sets of artillery harnesses. This is from Forrest at the Brice's Crossroads in North Mississippi in 1864. General Forrest gave this account to North Mississippi newspaper in 1864. Now, here's the thing about generals and colonels giving casualty lists and supply lists. Most time they were exaggerated. I mean, yeah, he captured a lot of munitions and horses here, but I don't think he was this much, because the bigger number I can get, the bigger number I can get in the newspaper, the more the morale and the boost for the war efforts around the area. So some of them, they were politicians of their times. They knew how to exaggerate. But this wood line right here was not there, and I'm going to take you onto the route. I'm going to take you to the very end of our tour, where a very special spot between 2 cedar trees I will show you. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this so far, but we're not done yet.
History and Heritage Explorers would like to give a special thank you to Mr. Elliott Witt for his assistance in making this video. Remember, boys and girls, if you'd like to learn more about the U.S. Civil War, please go to your local and school library. There are many books available. Please like and subscribe and share this video. And thank you from History and Heritage Explorers.